Hey everybody, know it's been a minute since we did one of these, took a little break for Thanksgiving, and let's get right back into it. Proverbs chapter 12 verse 9 today says, "Better to be lowly and have a servant than to play the great man and lack bread." This verse can be a little tricky to puzzle out, but I think that the lesson is very profound and very applicable. Let's put it this way. It is better to have a little with no adulation, no celebration, than to have nothing and yet be very well known. To be lowly and have a servant, lowly means to be looked down upon. Other translations have despised, and yet you're doing all right for yourself. You have a servant, and now today having a servant is like a big deal. Back then it was less so. So you're not rich, you're not glorious, you're doing okay, but you're ignored. You don't have any of that celebration, and you're not, invited to the parties of the rich and famous and everything else. But to play the great man and lack bread is to be applauded and celebrated, and you're invited for interviews on TV and everybody knows who you are, yet there's really nothing underneath that. You're broke. You don't really have anything to support all that. How many times have celebrities or athletes or famous people, politicians, they're great and they're the glitz and the glamour and everything, and then all of a sudden they're bankrupt and they're broke. And we're like, wait a minute, I thought you were the rich guy. I thought you made all those millions of dollars doing this. I thought you were doing these big old trade deals. And turns out, well, there's nothing underneath all of that. That happens all the time. It looked great, but there was nothing there. It's similar to the way back in the day when the middle class began to emerge in places like England, where there had been a very strict class structure, and now folks at the bottom are starting to rise up, and they made all this money, the nouveau rich and all that, and the old money looked down on the new folks rising up because they didn't have the pedigree, they didn't have the history and the stature. While maybe this guy rising up who made a lot of money through business is richer than you and has more than you, but it doesn't matter because he didn't have the name and the difference between that, and that could still go on for all I know. I don't run in either one of those circles, so there you go. The question is between perception and reality. Do you want to be known as a great man and everybody perceive you as being great, or do you want to have a little bit, doing all right for yourself, but nobody really cares? Many people chase the perception. This is what's called, in a lot of ways, affirming the consequent. It's a logical fallacy, and the logic, which is wrong, runs like this. I see on TV all my favorite athletes are driving this car, or they have this brand of clothing, or, name it. They have a house like this. They have a hot tub. They have hair that looks like this. So if I get these things, then I'll be like them. Advertisers use this drive within us to try and trick us into buying the product, so to speak. But, of course, we know that's ridiculous. Buying the same car as an athlete isn't going to make you a great athlete. And driving the same kind of car as a rich man isn't going to mean that you're rich. It's affirming the consequent. You've not done anything to get to that place. And the Bible tells us that it is better to have a little. You have a servant. You have one nice thing. You've got a few things that are doing all right for yourself, and you're looked down upon, but it doesn't really matter. We're to focus on reality, not perception. I don't need everybody to celebrate me because I'm doing okay. I'm not rich, I'm not famous, I'm doing okay, and I don't need anybody to know anything about it. We're obsessed, though, with getting rich quick. We want to get rich fast. If you're about to turn 30, you feel like you've failed because you're not a billionaire living on an island somewhere. If you have less than your parents when you begin, you feel like you're a failure because even though they've lived 50 years longer than you and they've got all the stuff and all the money that they've earned over those years, you feel like you should have it immediately. And so you maybe start running up a whole bunch of credit and borrowing money to appear like you've got all this stuff, when in reality, you don't have it, and it's all fake. It's better to have something real and earned, even though it's less than what the perception might be. So don't worry about the Instagram feeds. Don't worry about the brags on the golf course. It's all fake. Gather your little, tend your own garden, and be pleased with that. You don't have to be known as being some rich guy. You don't have to be known as being influential and powerful and all the rest of it. Just enjoy what God's given to you, and you'll do all right. It all comes back to loving what God has put in front of you and not needing the approval of other people. Choose reality over perception. Have a great day, you guys. Good to be back.